Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Welcome to the very first episode of the new UTS Finance Society Podcast, Finance Unplugged. Round of applause for us. We finally got the project off the ground. Yay! I am one of your co-hosts. My name's Alicia, and I have the lovely, beautiful Isabella next to me.
Hi.
We'll be your amazing co-host, and then we have our editing guy in the room, Nat, right on the side. God forbid anything happens to us technology-wise.
So the UTS Finance Society Podcast, Finance Unplugged, is your one-stop shop for informative, entertaining, and bite-sized financial information suited for anyone who is currently a student or a young financial professional.
Yes, that is very true. But just before we do get started on our main segments and getting to know a little bit about us and how we cope with our finances and what it's like being finance students, we thought we'd bring to you a couple of headlines for finance today. So I was scrounging the internet, as you do. I'm very interested to see what's actually happening in the world. And funnily enough, I saw that Skin Candy, the body piercing brand, are looking to release their IPO soon into the ASX, targeting a $400 million valuation. Actually, really random story on the topic of Skin Candy. I got a piercing by Skin Candy. I got thirds. It got horribly infected. I don't think my body can cope with any more piercings, so...
Maybe we shouldn't be, advertising this right now.
No, maybe not. That's okay. No, Skin Candy's great. They're beautiful. Good on them for doing their IPO. What other headlines do we have today?
With the current Iran war beginning over just the weekend, we have noticed that there is going to be a hike in oil prices, especially in our Australian petrol stations. The ABC have actually stated that economists are expecting an increase of over 40 cents in the coming weeks.
Yeah, are you feeling that? Do you drive much?
I don't really drive much. I kind of take the ferry just to get in and out of the city, and that's about it.
Oh, well, I drive a lot. And I felt $100 hit me in the heart.
Ooh,
when I had to fill
tough.
up my car. I really drove it down all the way to E, and then filling it up was not the best. But that's okay. We press on with life. And then another big finance headline that I also did find is, so anyone who's got to deal with interest rates, whether that's if you have a loan, mortgage, Michelle Bullock and the RBA have actually been in discussions recently in having a potential interest rate rise. Hoping to come probably within this next month or so. And that would be about a 0.25% increase within the interest rate. So I don't know what it is right now.
It's about 3.85.
Okay, so we're hitting a solid 4%.
4.1, roughly.
Nice, 4.1% for our interest rate. So who knows, we'll have to see where that goes.
Yep, we'll have to see where this takes us in the next 6 months.
Yes, the joys. All right. But...
And then finally, for all the trading fanatics out there, we have a recent announcement for on-market buybacks for Horizon?
Horizon? I actually don't know how to pronounce it.
Okay.
Horizon? I think it's Horizon.
I think it's Horizon as well, but I'm not sure. Holdings Limited of up to $250 million of its current ordinary shares.
Right. Well, those are your financial headlines for today, well, for the week. But now we're going to head on to our first segment, which is all about me and all about you.
Mm-hmm.
So... what we wanted to aim for this episode, I think, and definitely for this segment, is we want our listeners to understand who we are and what we're doing and some of our dreams and aspirations. So I just suggest we do a bit of a Q&A on each other.
Yeah, sounds good.
I don't know if you have your questions.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
I feel like they're going to be really similar to yours.
No, that's okay, but that's the whole point. We all have different experiences. But would you like to go first?
Sure. Okay, so you study medical science and business, majoring in finance.
Yes.
What drove you to that decision?
I loved science. I always loved it. I was actually in year 3 when I said I wanted to be a marine biologist. I don't know how I got into that idea, but yes, I did. I love the ocean, but my role into finance actually was kind of a backup plan. In the sense of, if I didn't really like science, I could always do business because I'm surrounded by a lot of business people. My family are all in business. Dad's in HR. My sister's in SAS. If you don't know that, it's services and tech and everything. And my other sister's in comms and being an EA. So very much grew up around the business side. But yeah, that's definitely the origins.
Okay, cool.
For you, Miss Isabella, Did you grow up in a business family? Like, did you have a lot of business role models around you, or was this sort of like a spur of the moment?
My environment was definitely very similar to yours. Everyone in my family is also in business, so all of that was just kind of my entire life. The only difference is, of course, which industry of business you chose to go into. That was the only differentiator.
Yeah, what was that usually then?
So for majority of my family, it was all financial based, and a few of my other families went into the business side of arts and performance, and I definitely went down that route as well, and I went into the arts side.
Yes, I know you've mentioned you want to be an author.
Yes, that's correct.
Have your publishing company, which I'm so excited for. If you eventually and hopefully get to do that.
I have actually started.
Really?
Yes, I'm 3 books in.
Yay! Oh, that's so great!
Yeah, it's so exciting. We're actually less than a month away now from another book release, so that's going to be really exciting.
Can we have a little intro into what it might be?
Oh, okay. So
without disclosing too much.
So I guess the general pitch is that it's going to be focused on AI ethics in education and how that can play into a psychological battle.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
All right. No, that's so cool. I even had, actually, I went super old school and I actually wrote down some other questions in my beautiful portfolio. Because I need my life to be organized this way. What else had I written in my questions? Yeah. So I know you say you want to do the arts, you've got your publishing, your writing, but you're also doing a Master's of Finance and a diploma in Spanish.
Masters of Education.
Masters of Education, I'm so sorry.
All good.
Masters of Education and your diploma in...
Innovation and Languages.
Yes, that's right as well, where you're learning Spanish.
Yes.
With the Spanish, do you hope to take that elsewhere in your career, or is that just like a fun thing, or like, do you want to be speaking financial advice in Spanish? I know.
That would be something.
Yeah.
No, not really in the finance world. I was thinking more becoming a Spanish teacher. So, if I ever decide to go teach overseas, then that's clearly an avenue for the students, not me to take. So that's something they can look into.
Yeah.
But no, for me, it's just definitely learning about the language, the culture, and kind of passing that knowledge on to the future generations.
No, oh, that's so cool. I love that. Do you have any other questions for me?
So a very interesting question for you is, what inspired you in terms of creating this podcast and getting this project off the ground?
Yes, so the main reason is I'm all about, I think it's definitely at the core of who I am and my values of, I always want to be able to not explain, but provide insight into difficult concepts. I mean, that's why I'm doing science and business, because I feel like I would do a really good job in just like in general with like my career and the kind of pathways I want to go down. I'm communicating in sort of layman's terms what science and business is and how that helps people. And that's always kind of been my core. I will also say, just like as a background of who I am, I did musical theatre for 10 years. I love the arts, I love everything, played the cello. So I'm very much in the be out there, be outspoken. So I think the main thing with this podcast is I want to be a little bit outspoken of, finance. Finance isn't just boring in a classroom when you're doing a lecture, sitting there for 3 hours learning about applied corporate finance. It is fun and it's interesting. It's scandals. It's understanding what it is for the future when you want to buy a house, or, what credit ratings are. Sorry, I can't speak today.
That's cool.
So that's definitely been the big motivation, and being able to explain that to people. Because I feel like even going throughout high school, I always constantly was frustrated in the sense of we never got a lifestyle class. No teacher ever told us what it means to have super, or having to apply for a TFN, and what that means when you get a job, and how much money is actually taken out of your pay for your tax, and when you get that money back, how amazing it feels and elated.
All the fun adulting stuff that we clearly are never looking forward to.
God, no, never. And then the joys of, the cost of living crisis.
Oh yes, the current crisis that everyone is talking about, but also ignoring at the same time.
Yeah, how do you feel about that actually?
Honestly, from my current perspective as someone who is studying economics, it is definitely an issue that I feel like we as the current and also the future generations are going to be paying it for in a very, very long term.
Yay. Is there anything do you think we can do with that? Because I know everyone talks about the cost of living crisis. I have this conversation all the time with my dad, actually, where back in the 80s when he was around our age and a little bit older, you know, back in my day, interest rates were 18% and we survived. It's like, yeah, bro, everything was cheaper and relative to you. We're not spending $1 million to $2 million to buy a house. You guys were spending $300K for buying a house, or $400K.
Yeah, that's definitely a massive range in today's time now.
Yeah. But, so, I don't know, as an economist yourself as well, how would you feel we could be bettering us and our generation in that sense then?
Honestly, there's so many mixed perspectives right now. Like, if you look at some of the economics, like, news, a lot of economists are just saying, go to your mum and dad and ask them for money to help you buy a house. So that's one avenue. But it definitely is different. I come from a very privileged background, so I don't think I should be speaking on this per se.
Yeah.
So definitely experience-based, context-based, it's very different across the board.
Yeah, that's true. And then with another question for you. What is your favorite aspects of finance or economics? Is there anything that gives you like joy? Oh, I shouldn't say that. That's mean. Is there anything that gives you like, you know, you just kind of want to dive in and go, yes, I love this. I want to learn more. I don't know.
I feel like this is probably not spoken a lot of, but I really love the behavioral aspects of any social science. So whether that's finance, psychology, or even economics, the behavior is always so fascinating to me because you're taught about these people who are quote unquote rational in the sense that they know what they're meant to do, but they actually don't follow those rules.
Right, okay. So is that more so playing into like the ethics side of things as well, or?
Not necessarily ethics, because it's all about your own personal perspective, your morality, and also, okay, I guess morality is similar to ethics.
Yeah.
But more so like how you choose to take certain actions or, I guess, ignore certain consequences.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think with me, with finance, I'm very much interested in the certain aspects of applied corporate finance have always been interesting. I really enjoyed learning about sort of this idea of like agency problems and then how that plays in mergers and acquisitions. I mean, I'm also starting to take the ethics and finance elective, and I've really enjoyed all the scandals and what's involved with that. Like how people are stealing millions of dollars right under other people's noses and getting away with it or not getting away with it, and the punishment they are being given. I think that's very interesting as well.
Definitely.
And definitely plays on that psychology and morality and ethics side of things, which is very important. But as well with like, yeah, the math side of things and finance is also kind of cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to some work experience or internships that we might have had.
Yeah. What have you had in work experience?
Well, apart from running my own business,
yeah,
the only kind of other work experience I really have is anything to do with like the creative aspects of admin and marketing and business development. So not really financially based, but kind of in the business world.
Yeah, I think as finance students, you're either really lucky and you get something super quick off the back of like a part-time job or full-time gig and you do night classes. There were so many people who were like that in my degree. I think in business degrees as well. You see them all show up in those suits at like 6 o'clock at night for class and you're like, oh, you've been at work. So I feel like you're either in that pool or you're in the pool of, you know, you're waiting for that internship grad program to kind of come around in your final years and stuff. In regards to me, internship wise and work experience wise, I do not have much. My form of internship and work wise is sitting next to my dad while he works opposite me in a big office. And I just hear all these things and I'm like, okay, cool, that sounds interesting. And it'll just be like, come over and listen to this, and show me stuff. So that's definitely my exposure to the work experience of what it's like to be in a corporate role. Yeah, but no, nothing other than that. And then obviously like general admin for life and stuff and bills and
yes,
bank
our
accounts.
favorite things.
Yeah. And bank accounts and paying off credit cards, that's definitely my work experience dealing with that finance. Yes, but obviously I don't know if you've seen on LinkedIn all the big four and financial companies are all opening up their grad programs and
yes,
internships.
I have actually. A lot of my friends have already applied. Personally, I don't think I'm following down that route.
No?
No.
You want to be there's a joke my family and I have. Business cat. You don't want to be a business cat?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to be a business cat. I feel like I need to try it. I'm all about trying things and then figuring out later the opinion of like, oh, I really like this, I could do this again, or like, oh god, no, I never want to be in this world again.
Yeah, honestly, for you, I feel like you are the kind of person who just wants to do things for the experience of doing it.
Yeah.
Which is honestly the best way to go about life.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm way too focused on my goals, so if it's not in alignment, I'm obviously just not going to consider it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I have not been the best wannabe intern grad program. I have not applied to anything. Probably should, but I'm too busy with studies and everything else in my life going on, but that's okay. But yeah, so like KPGM, Deloitte have been putting out their programs. I don't know who else. You also see just like random, I've seen lots of random startups or even like hedge funds have been like interning in grad programs ideas. So
definitely.
like, yeah, it'll be an interesting thing to see in the next few months. What happens and what else opens up and everything. But yeah. And then obviously the reason why we're here at uni is for careers and for our future. Definitely. So what's the main future? What's your ideal future or ideal career that you would like to see?
I don't really know. To be fair, I would like to say that right now as an author, my future is set. But to be fair, I'm the type of person who's so indecisive, I will choose a whole different path in the split of a second. So who knows, maybe one day I'll be an economist, a policy consultant, or even just a teacher out of nowhere.
No, I love that.
How about for you?
For me, I think I'm definitely around the same idea and concept of I really don't know. I'm very much ready to try a bunch of different things to see what I actually like. But I think for me, my ideal kind of career would be having a role that combines business and science together and being able to communicate that, which is very lucky because when you're doing it with a lot of pharma and medtech companies, they always need people with business acumen, but also hopefully that understanding of what's going on in projects and, you know, what they actually want to promote to like hospitals or universities, or whether that's for just the market in general. So that's definitely something.
Okay, pretty cool.
Interested in, yeah.
I do remember looking at I don't believe it was a biotech, but it was something to do with AI in medicine as a startup.
Oh,
would you be interested in working in that kind of space?
AI in medicine? I feel like I would. We did projects on this in the sense of like how could AI be beneficial or not beneficial in medicine, and I definitely am on the fence of like aspects of it yes and aspects of it not. I would honestly love the opportunity to like one being in a startup, because I think startup is such a completely different world to being in a established organization. But also even just to understand that like interconnection with AI and medical science would be very cool, like very interesting to explore. But yeah. So, I think hopefully our listeners have learned a little bit about us, and hopefully you guys can relate to us. I am hopefully in the talks of figuring out if we can get a communication channel going on through the Finance UTS Society Instagram page, but we'll keep you more updated on that. But I did want to talk a little bit more about something that I found. So I listened to this podcast called She's on the Money. It's really great. They're Australian. They've been around since 2019. They talk about a lot of cool things. And I think a lot of things which are very relatable in the sense of they're more based around like millennials, but in the sense of, yes, we're not that old, thank goodness. But in the sense of around like what we as Gen Zers could do. So they were talking about this way of how to manage money and your finances and budgeting, which what you have to do is you have to get a piece of paper, you have to have your 4 factors of your earning, your spending, your owning, and your owing. So I just thought it was a really cool exercise to use in the sense of, as young people, I feel like we all either have part-time jobs or casual jobs, and maybe some people do struggle, whether that's in a socioeconomic level or whatever type of circumstance. That this would actually be really good financial advice in the sense of how to organize yourself. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. Do you want to explain a little bit more or maybe provide an example for the listeners who maybe haven't heard of such a technique or strategy?
Yeah, so with the way you would be doing this, so let's just say the example of me. I have 3 casual jobs. I'm doing uni. And I still live at home with my parents because that's the way to go, personally. I'm not spending money on rent or bills. However, I do have my own personal expenses and other expenses, whether in regards to helping out with groceries or usually my petrol. So depending on how I'm earning, obviously it's a bit difficult when you're a casual because shifts fluctuate. Money income will always fluctuate as well. So I've definitely had to do my hard work in making sure I've got my savings account and then the everyday account. And then obviously my spending is, I think I'm definitely becoming a bit more conscious of making food at home.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, not spending too much money, and maybe not splurging too much on a night out. I definitely did that last week. I felt my bank account cry a little bit for me, but that's okay. And then obviously with your owning, if you own outright a car, or if you are very lucky, or you're owning and renting an apartment because you're in a share house with a bunch of people, so then that will kind of categorize that stuff into that section of your life. And then the owing is the tricky bit. So the owing would then be, do you owe money to, like, if you have debt, if you have credit cards that you haven't really paid off yet, even if you just owe someone for them paying for tickets or something like that. That's definitely how I would categorize that. I'm very lucky, or even just owing in the sense of your HEX debt. You have to, owing your HEX debt back. Do you know what your HEX debt is now?
No, I actually really don't. I feel like I checked last year, but since census data is technically not here yet, I just haven't looked at it temporarily. We'll see in a couple of weeks.
It's okay. We'll live in delusional land.
Definitely.
We'll live in delusion.
The best way to live.
Yes. No, so that's definitely what our owing would be, and owing in the sense of, like, if you have any other personal loans. So if you feel like you're not the best with saving money, I really do want you to think about this. You don't even have to employ this into your life. It could just be a food for thought kind of moment. And hopefully that maybe you could improve the way you save money or how you allocate money, and as well as the sense of how you split your pay. Because I don't know how you would do it, but usually when I get paid, I usually do a 50-50, 50 in the savings, 50 in the everyday. That has changed a little bit, obviously, because with shifts changing and availabilities, that does turn to a bit more into that 60-40 or 40 savings,
right,
60,
definitely.
60 spending. I don't know about in your case.
Mine's a little different because my income is all business related. So for me, it would definitely be more like 20% savings, about 10 to 20% depending on the month, because I get paid. It fluctuates from every quarter to every month. So depending on when I get paid and the amount of it, I will invest that certain amount back into a business kind of model or whatever might be in the works right now. For example, like the book release, that's where all the money's going for investment wise, and then anything else left over would be for me, and that would kind of be how my money management system is.
Yeah, and like, does that, obviously it suits you in the sense of
yes.
like how you're living your life, and like obviously we're both at home.
Yep.
Yeah, we're both at home with our parents still. Yes, so, and definitely no personal loans or credit cards. No, I'm too scared to get my own credit card. I don't know. How do you feel?
Like a business one, but I never use it because honestly, the idea of having to factor in all of that stuff is just not for fun.
Yeah.
And I don't want to think about it until it's a necessary requirement.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I also sort of feel that way. It's like the amount of people I've met who already invest in things in like ETFs and shares is insane. Like I equally, like, as finance students, I feel like there's this kind of collective that if you are smart enough and you do have the means, you should be investing, obviously. And I think equally at our age, the amount of professors who say, oh, invest now, high risk, high reward, like,
definitely.
That's definitely a current trend that I'm seeing. But then I'm too scared because I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And I don't want to, like, waste my money. And what if all the shares that I bought just go, no. And it just dies. We just die. And we just don't get our money back. So that's definitely a big fear of mine in the sense of how that would play out in the world. But yes. Do you have anything more to add?
I don't think so.
No?
Nope. I think that's a very good wrap up for our first episode.
I think so too. Did we feel great? Did we go good with tech? Are we good with our tech?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So, to all our listeners, hopefully if you are still listening, thank you so much for listening to us and letting us ramble about finance and our lives. We hope to see you next episode, and we'll hopefully be releasing this soon. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
All right.